All right, get the brooms out. The Colorado Avalanche, with their second year in a row where they have swept their first round opponent. This year, it's the Nashville Predators. Maybe the best played game between the two teams, the most tightly contested game, other than that overtime game, obviously. But this one was back and forth. Nashville took their first lead of the series, but it didn't last too long as the Avs tied it and then took that lead right back. And that was all she wrote. Kyle and I will break it all down right now.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Avalanche podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your host, Chris Maselli. With me, as always, Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. Follow the show on social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, LockedOnAvalanche@gmail.com. And follow the show on our YouTube channel. There it is. That is loud and obnoxious. Yeah, over on YouTube. Hit subscribe and get notified when a new show goes live. So, like we said in the opening, if you're listening on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, I should say, second year in a row, the Avs sweep their first round opponent. We've been here before. I don't think anybody, people are celebrating, but I don't think anybody is going, we're not popping the champagne right now because we're familiar with this. So now we get a nice long break. Guys like Darcy Kemper can really heal up and rest up, and you get prepared for round two, whether that is the St. Louis Blues or the Minnesota Wild. That series has all the makings of going 7. And you can look at that as a positive or a negative. It could be, you are rested. They are going to be beaten and battered, but they won't have as much rust as the Avalanche will have on. We'll get to that later in the week because we're going to have some days where we don't have hockey in Avalanche world. But for this one, Kyle, this was a good playoff hockey. There were two in this series, game 2 and game 4, the overtime game, and obviously this game. And then, the odd number games were blowouts. The evens were good, close games. And the Avalanche, they gave up the lead for the first time in the series, and they just methodically continued to play their game. They didn't panic. They tied it with a Taves shot, and then they took the lead back at an empty netter. That's all she wrote.
This is exactly what you wanted out of the Avalanche. And we're talking like this was a close game. They still hung 5 goals on them.
Right.
And also, let's not forget, this is a Frankie game. This is Pavel Francouz back there. This is not your number one. And Nashville had everything to play for. This was it. There was no, we'll get them next time. And the Avalanche, it took them at least 2 periods, but the third period they exploded. And you got the production from exactly who you wanted. And the whole series, if you go back and look at this, I think this was a better series than when we swept the Blues. This was dominance in every form of the game.
Oh, man.
And we said the Avalanche were a good team all year, better than the 0-1 team. This is how you start proving that in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, for games 1, 2, and 3, you were literally in charge the entire game. This was the first game where the Preds, it was a back and forth game. There were times where the Predators had the advantage and were kind of, riding that home wave, and then the Avalanche would take over. But I don't think the Avs were not as in charge when they were, really possessing the puck well. It wasn't as well as the previous 3 games. There was a lot of getting it into the zone and firing a shot on net, which I'm fine with because you still had Ingram and net for them. They didn't want to pull the Saros card, which, okay, fine. So I get that. I mean, the Avs struggled. I don't want to say they struggled to get zone entries, but they struggled to maintain the zone. You know, they didn't have those. They weren't cycling like we had been seeing, and I think that's a credit to Nashville, kind of changing up their defensive schemes and not letting them do that. But like you said, in the third, it was that the third period was kind of back to what the Avalanche have been doing in this series and really taking command. And I say that knowing full well that they gave up the lead, but I think they knew that. I think they knew, like, okay, we're really starting to kind of control the pace of play here. We gave up a goal on a really bad. They were changing lines, and it was just at the worst possible time. I don't know why they were changing lines, and it led to a goal. So they were just like, all right, that's a mistake, and let's continue to play our game, and you get the results that you get. The third period was fantastic for the Avs.
Yeah, and you honestly, you kind of had that feel like in the first two periods, like the energy, you kind of felt like the Avalanche realized, you know, if we give 100%, we're hanging 7 on these guys. We don't have to do that tonight. Let's just kind of do our thing, but we don't have to go out there and really strive. And the first two periods were kind of slow. It was kind of back and forth. Faceoffs looked terrible. The power play wasn't the greatest, but that third period is when they realized, hey, you know what? We could put this away right here. And then you see that with the production and how everything kind of shaped up at the end, and Frankie really solidifying his place between the pipes. Like, the Avalanche took care of what they needed to, and they found a way, no pun intended, but yes.
Yeah.
They found a way.
Hashtag intended.
Hashtag intended. They found a way to win the game and do what they were expected to do. There's so many other series where you kind of scratch your head and you say, well, why is Washington and Florida tied up? Like, this shouldn't be like this. Like, there's no question surrounding this Colorado Avalanche team, and that's what you want going into round 2.
And you win another game in another fashion. You know what I mean? I think if the Avs never trailed in this series, we would all be talking about that. Like, yeah, that's amazing, and that's a great accomplishment and achievement. That's total dominance. But now looking back on it, it's good that the Avs were down, and when they were down.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Nashville scored a goal in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game, and the Avs had the rest of the game to play their style and come back in the game. Nashville scored that. It was pretty. Where was the time on that? Let me see. My internet just went crazy. Hang on, let me bring up that. There we go. That was in the third. That was 4. So that was toward the beginning of the third. Wow, I thought it was later than that for some reason. So they did have some time to come back, obviously, and they did. But the fact is, it was a third period goal that they were trailing in the third. So, all right, you know, and this is, you know, if they lost the game, you still feel good. You're heading back to Denver, commanding 3-1 lead. You go home. Like, I think everybody would have thought they would have just wrapped up the series then. But no, like, this is the third period. We are going to fight this, and we want to end this thing now. And it was a third period deficit, and they overcame it.
Yeah, this was a conversation we were having in the Locked On Avalanche Twitter space. Like, how it would be, wouldn't it, when the Avalanche were down, ironically enough, after ESPN put up the graphic that, wow, the Predators haven't led once this entire series, and then, of course, they go out there and lead.
Sure.
Like, you say, well, wouldn't it be nice if they close out this series in front of the home crowd in Ball Arena? And I flat out just said, no, this hasn't even crossed their mind. Like, why in the world would you spend the last 2 weeks of the regular season resting literally everyone and worrying about being healthy and then want to play another game against Nashville? That's ridiculous. Like, there was not ever a thought of, well, if we drop this one, I guess we'll no.
Yeah,
The Avalanche did what they needed to do. They realized the task at hand. They're like, okay, we need a couple more goals. We need to get out of here. Fine, we'll do it. And you saw the passes get crisper. Like, it's exactly what you wanted.
You mentioned just in passing a couple minutes ago that you thought like the game seemed a little bit slow. I was looking at it as like I was okay with their pace.
Yeah.
It was just it didn't seem like, and you look at the shots on goal, and the Avs were consistent throughout the game, 13, 11, and 14. But in the first, it just didn't have that feel like they had 13 shots on net.
No.
But they were. I mean, they knew that that this is the pace that they've been playing for this whole series. Why stop? I thought the pace in the first and the second was okay. It was just they were struggling to create solid chances. Like Nashville was in the shooting lanes. It was tough. It was really tough. And you saw. I looked up the overall Corsi for the first. While, and this is going off the top of my head because I don't have it in front of me, but the Avs outshots Nashville 13-6. The Corsi was actually like 14-21 in favor of Nashville. So Nashville was just throwing a ton on, or not even a net, just throwing a bunch of shots. And I get that. You got to create something. And that it didn't surprise me that much because what I was just kind of like watching was Nashville just seems to be really keeping up with Colorado in the first. And then to me, Nashville can't play that game over 60 minutes. They can't.
No.
It's not their style. We know their style, and their style can't win a series against a team like the Avalanche.
And when you say, like, when I said slow, I think we get kind of accustomed to the first 3 games. Like, it's not going to get close to 50 shots, and you're not going to have 5 goals in one period, and it's not going to be over before you even get to the first intermission show. Like, I think we got kind of spoiled there in that regard, but like a slower pace is still better. Look around the league, watch the full slate of games. Hey, we got nothing but time until the next series is settled. Like, the Avalanche plays such a far superior game to anyone else right now, currently in this first round. They play such a superior game to anybody else on the ice.
Yeah.
Like, I think we get kind of spoiled. So when they take a step back and it feels pedestrian, look across the league. Like, we're still like doing so much better.
Go watch like the Penguins and the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
That the speed of that game is nowhere near what the Avalanche can do. Nowhere near it. And if that happens to be a Stanley Cup final, that is going to be a problem. I mean, it's looking like Pittsburgh is going to take that series, but they can't keep up. Nobody can. So that's kind of like the overall summary, but how, our take on the game. Let's hear from Bet Online, and then we'll kind of get into individual players, individual plays, and things like that. But first, betonline.net. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all of your betting needs. Find all of the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, there we go, fights, and even the next NLF futures. Is that like a new football league? I'm assuming that's not XFL. I think that's a.
I don't know.
I would have to look that up. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sport wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. It's betonline.net, where the game starts. All right. Interesting start to the scoring of this game, anyway, where Andrei Burakovsky, and it was so funny, Vargar in the comments was like, he hit the net. and he actually broke the net, is how I responded to him. But very odd play. I mean, it did look like the angle of the puck, it went in, but then you're like, maybe it didn't, and play resumed. And typically, like they're looking at those all the time in Toronto, and if they see something iffy, they'll stop play. They don't think they stopped the play until the puck was stopped, which whatever. Mm-hmm. And then they went back and looked at it, and the thing went in. He roofed it, and it just continued on right through the net. I've never really seen that before.
No, and I was joking in the Twitter space that Berkey was actually aiming for the 5-hole, and that's why he. He
went high.
When he went high, so. But it was crazy. Like, at first, you're like, when you see just kind of the puck rim around, you're like, yeah, Berkey missed it. And then you're like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, did he actually put that in? And then when you look at the replay, there was not one single angle that said no, he did not. So you're like, wow, that was kind of neat. And then I said, like, is this going to be a bad omen for the weirdness in the game? And of course, it was like a
Yeah.
weird, shaky start, but like for Berkey to be the one to get the scoring started in that way, yeah, it was a little odd.
A weird omen like Sandlot. He rips the cover off the ball, and it's a weird omen. So Berkey shooting a puck through the net is a weird omen. Yeah, I get it.
Aiming 5-hole, of course.
Yeah. I mean, don't look now. Andrei Burakovsky with a 3-point game, right?
And that was his
yeah.
18th career playoff goal. And like, that's something we forget about. Like, he does step up in the playoffs. Like, he does contribute. Like, that's
Well, yeah, and he's on the third line, and
Mhm.
he should embrace that. You know, I know you don't want to, and I saw a quote somewhere, during the day at some point where they asked him that, and he's like, "Now's not the time for to cry about this stuff. Like, we're all in a mission here, and wherever they want to put me is where they want to put me." And you should almost be like, okay, I know I am better than a third line forward, so let me tear this up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at least for that game, he did. You had Cale Makar just. We like I've said before, we keep running out of words and terms for this guy, but he made another incredible.
Yeah, you said like we keep running out of words for Cale Makar. I don't think we used supercalifragilisticexpialidocious yet. So I think
Yeah. I have a feeling
Yeah,
it's not
well-
gonna be the last time we hear about Disney in this episode either.
No, probably not.
No, it's actually the play that he made was the go-ahead goal. I'm sorry, the Taves one was the tie goal. And then he made a play. He loves making these moves along that left side board.
Yeah.
And he slipped a defender again. He's a big guy. He's tall. And the way that he can maneuver past defenders is unmatched. And he did it again, and he kept going right down the left-hand side. Beautiful cross-ice pass to Val Nichushkin, and that was the game winner.
And I think it was the lone power play. I'm looking. I think it was the one power play Nashville had. No, they had two. It was the first one. Cale Makar brought in a puck shorthanded. It was making some like backwards moves and like was setting up like they were on the power play. And I was like, what is getting into you? Like, just settle down, man. We got this. But he was a man possessed tonight.
He's not going to stop. He doesn't care. Like he knows his skill set, and he knows what he knew he was going to do that long before it. He's got it planned out on what he's going to do.
He was backing down that defender like one-on-one basketball, like you're driving to the hoop. He was just backing him down, making that forward play. Yeah. And it looks so good. You don't see that kind of stuff.
The only ones I've seen do it are him, and McKinnon does it sometimes too.
Yeah, true.
But not a lot of people will chance that, especially when you're shorthanded. But overall, like the Avs stars, the Avs names showed up.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, God, I don't know, and I'm saying this lightly. I wanted a little bit more from Mikko Rantanen in this series. He didn't really do much yesterday. Let me see what he had. He didn't have anything.
He did dive like and block a pass that would have been a surefire Nashville goal. I think it was in the first, or if not early in the second. And it's another one of those Mikko, you can't put that on the score sheet moments. Like he had no business doing that, but he knew in that moment he had to, or the Avalanche were going to be down early.
Yeah. And that's where he was good. Like, I mean, I think he had 5 points in the series, if I'm not mistaken. But he only had one shot on goal. As far as the stat sheet goes, he only had one shot on goal yesterday. Nothing, no goals, no assists. And it's just, even on the power play, I thought he was a little bit gun shy. Didn't really want to take that. He was just waiting for that pass that he gets from McKinnon all the time. I don't know. He seemed a little bit stagnant on the power play. So if that's my only gripe, I think it's with how Mikko played yesterday. Not that he played awful, but he just didn't like rise above everybody. Like you see Cale Makar and the things that he's doing and what Nathan McKinnon is doing. Even Devon Taves, how he always plays. All Val Nichushkin, even some of these guys on like the fourth line who are battling and forechecking, and Mikko's kind of just like his cool, calm, cool, collected self. And you were like, man, if he could match the energy that Makar and McKinnon are bringing, like this would have been over in the first.
You kind of wonder if he, with his incredible hockey brain, realizes, hey, we're scoring like 7 goals in the first game, 7 in the third game, 5 tonight. Like, I don't really have to do this. Nathan McKinnon scored literally in every playoff game. Like, I'll just save this for round 2. Let everybody have their day. I'll catch you when we get to the next round.
I mean, maybe, but
he doesn't like in those situations. You don't. It's not like from a lack of effort.
No,
from Mikko. Like,
no, I don't think it's lack of effort. I think he was just cruising along, like in his electronic vehicle while Cale and Nathan McKinnon were in their, I don't know.
It's those Cale and Nathan McKinnon are 2 players that love proving things about themselves, and like when it comes to their stature as a player, Mikko's perfectly fine outside of the spotlight, just contributing wherever he does. If he's needed, he'll be there. If he's not, if everybody else has got the spotlight, he's perfectly fine.
Yeah, and it's not like they were like, "Where are you? We need you!" Like now because we're struggling. Like I said, all their names were producing, and you look at the flip side, and where were they for Nashville? I mean, Forsberg finally got a goal, which I think was his first. It was his first goal. Was that even his first point? He must have had an assist somewhere. I gotta assume he did.
It had to be because Duchesne was getting everything else.
Yeah, that's true. Duchesne did have a goal, so I'm sure he assisted on. I don't have it in front of me, but whatever. But I know that was his first goal.
Yeah,
and that can't happen. You know what I mean? Like he can't have his first goal in the third period of game number 4 when your season is on the line.
Yeah.
So that's the difference in this series. The Avs superstars and stars stepped up, while the Nashville Predators players did not. So there you have it.
And that's another advantage that Colorado has. If they have one of those games where the stars don't produce, they're deep enough that even the like third and fourth lines can get you a goal here and there. So like tail of the tape, Avalanche win. So
all right, let's get to our sound check. This will be a good one. Obviously, the Avs sweep. So these will be sweep-related songs, and you can go find these on the LOPN Soundcheck playlist over on Spotify. After every game, Kyle and I give songs that we feel best summarize the game. In this case, the sweep of the Nashville Predators. What do you got, sir?
From the beloved Disney classic, Mary Poppins, Chim Chimney, Chim Chimney, Chim Chim Chiroo. No, it's like a sweep is as lucky can be. Like it's talking about the life as like being of a chimney sweep, but
like, is that the one where that's not the one where the like cleaning the room?
No, like that's a spoonful of sugar.
That's a spoonful of sugar. Okay. I mean, I know the one where chimney one, but I can't. I'm trying to picture where it is in the movie. It's the chimney.
Yeah, it's where he's talking about how great. Oh, it's a good movie.
I know it is, but I haven't seen it in 20 years.
He's talking about how great it is to like clean chimneys, and he's like talking about the great views he gets to enjoy, and the chimney sweep world. But a sweep is as lucky could be. Chimney. Yeah, sing it. Right. It's gonna be stuck in your head.
So this is now the second Disney song that you've gone with in a few days. So
dad mode activated.
I was gonna say you must be on a kick right now on Disney Plus or something.
It's true.
For me, I don't know how my friends and I found this song, and we found it back when it came out, which was in 2007. So I want you to put yourself in that state of mind. This is before the reboot well, not a reboot, but it came back from the 80s of Cobra Kai and Karate Kid and everything like that. So this was 2007, and there was a band called No More Kings, and they came out with a song called Sweep the Leg. And we all know Sweep the Leg, Johnny, and that is in the lyric. Go check out the video after you finish with this episode of Locked On Avalanche. Then type into YouTube, No More Kings, Sweep the Leg. The video, again, 2007, nothing's been said of Cobra Kai or Karate Kid back then. The video has all of them in it. And it's just a great video because that's the first time you saw all of them kind of back together again.
Yeah.
You just thought Karate Kid was done with these other than these like side stories that they had with, I think, who was it? Jaden Smith or something like that. But
Yeah, and Hilary Swank.
And Hilary Swank, which I think was a good one. But this was Johnny. Johnny's back. They even had Ralph Macchio in the video. Great song. Obviously very fitting with what the Avalanche just did. And Cobra Kai never dies.
In 2007, we thought we weren't going to see any more Star Wars or Ghostbusters.
It's true. I mean, I love all the stuff that's coming back.
Yeah.
I'm loving it. They even brought Punky Brewster back, dude.
That's true.
Jeez. Nothing is off limits right now.
And the A-Team came back after that, too.
They did. That didn't last too long, though, did it?
Nope.
I don't think, no. Full House came back for like 5 or 6 seasons. I mean, it's a good time to be alive.
And a new season of Rocko's Modern Life.
When's that?
It just came out. I think it was
Did
last
it
year.
Really?
Yeah.
I must have missed that. Wow. All right. So go check all those songs out and everything else that's on that list right now. I'm wondering if for next year we start a brand new, like a volume 2.
Yeah.
For next, because the playlist right now is getting quite long, which is fine. But I don't think we should just continue this. I think next year when the season starts, that will start Soundcheck Volume 2. So
Yeah.
for now, go get Volume 1. All right. We talked about Cale Makar, who apparently was getting Skittles thrown at him in the game towards the end of the game. I think when it was over, he said something about that Skittles were getting thrown at him. Shame on you, Nashville fans. That's kind of pathetic, but whatever. Just go bang your car more. Take a sledgehammer to the car if you need to get out some anger. Don't throw Skittles at people.
I was seeing that there were tickets going for $15.
Are you kidding me?
That you could purchase playoff tickets for $15 that night.
Wow.
So I guess with that extra pocket money, they bought Skittles and decided to throw it away.
Wow.
Good on you, Nashville.
Well, we don't have to deal with them anymore. So, I know, and Cale Makar was officially a Norris Trophy finalist, obviously with Roman Josi and Victor Hedman of Tampa Bay. We're, clearly rooting for Cale Makar and biased in the fact that we think he should win it. And not only biased that we think he should, there's reasoning behind why we think he should win it, not just because he wears the Avalanche colors. You and I were saying, and again, I'm not taking away from Roman Josi's season. He had a very good season. But if we're including defender in this award, I would think you would put Hedman and Makar above Josi and have Josi third. Just my saying. Again, he had a great year. I'm happy that you had a ton of points, but how's your defense?
Yeah.
So having said that, and the voting is in, it's done for all the awards. Do you think there's some voters now watching what just happened in this series where Josi only had a couple points and Makar, if not for Brad Marchand going off, at one point he was leading the playoffs in points. Your defenseman is leading the playoff in points. Do you think there's some voters out there right now who are saying like, maybe I got this wrong?
You would hope not, because honestly, if you are voting for the best defender, like if you are looking on paper and saying best defender, and then you don't immediately go start Googling stats just to find, because you're not going to quantify the best defender by scoring. It's kind of an oxymoron.
Right. I mean, it's a part of it.
It's
It
a part of
absolutely is a
it,
part
but
of it.
that shouldn't be the you go immediately Google sort who's got the most points. Ah, that's your best defender, of course. No, it's a lot of hate to quote the recently fired Pierre McGuire, but it's the eye test. Um, like Cale McCarr wins that hands down. Victor Hedman is better than Yossi, hands down.
Oh,
Um,
defensively, without a doubt. Yeah.
so if you want to argue what metric you want to go by, it's best defender, and Kale McCarr checks the box on each category, whatever you want to quantify it. Like if you want to go best defender, that would be probably Hedman. If you want to go,
Yeah.
if you want to go best offensive defenseman, maybe Yossi because of his points. If you want to go best defender, all the categories, Cal McCarr.
If you want to do everything combined, yeah, the all around best defenseman, that's Cale McCarr. And so I mean, if your metric is Yossi had the most points, okay, well he had 10 more points than McCarr, and McCarr played in 77 games. And did Hedman, or excuse me, did Yossi play in every single game this year? I'm looking that up really quickly. Come on, let's load. He played in 80. Okay, so McCarr played in 3 less games. Not that you're not going to catch up on that. But let's just say that, McCarr had 97 points.
Mm-hmm.
Is that why you're going to put McCarr ahead of Yossi? Are you going to now vote for Cale McCarr because he has 1 more point than Roman Yossi? So is that, I mean, that is the sticking point here for so many voters is points, and you're not looking at anything else. I think it's a little bit ridiculous. I mean, I am preparing myself for Roman Yossi to win this thing. It just seems like that's where this voting is going, and I just think it's wrong for the namesake of the award. And then when you look at what happened in the playoffs, and I know it doesn't come into play. I'm not trying to say it should. I'm not trying to say that because that's not fair to the, like or Adam Fox last year. They didn't even make the playoffs, and he won the award. Fine, that's how it should be. But I'm saying, like, just look at the matchup, but just these 4 games. You can't tell me that Cale McCarr is not the better player when it comes to defense and offense and everything in between. You can't tell me that.
Yeah, then this is where, when most likely Yossi does win the Norris because of that immediately Google, find the most scoring, and then check the box. Mm-hmm. When you see them go head to head in a series like this, the way they're going to get out of it is, well, with a team like Colorado, how can you
that's
not?
The argument.
And then Yossi is doing that with such a bad team. It's amazing. It's Yossi's the reason they even got to the playoffs. And that's how they're going to get out of that, and then wipe their hands and dust it off. And
again, that's not how you're supposed to vote.
Nope.
You're not supposed to vote that way.
It's a tale as old as time. I've seen it before. Yeah, Another Disney reference.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, you're feeling pretty good if you're an Avs fan. You got this series out of the way, but like I said in the beginning, this is not what you set out to achieve at the beginning of the season. I don't think any of us were expecting a sweep. You figured that Nashville would get 1 here or there. But the fact that the Avs for the 2nd year in a row swept their first round opponent, okay, this is the sequel that we're living through right now. Let's not have the ending be the same.
Got 12 more to go. 12 more to go.
Exactly, and they know that, and they used last year as encouragement. You know what I mean? They don't not want to talk about it. It's like, no, we don't talk about that. It's like, no, we're going to talk about it. We're going to remember it, and we're going to use that as motivation.
Similar to the 0-1 team.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
That's where Mission 16W came from.
They were down. Yeah. So we got probably a week off. Because if this went 7, your game 7 would have been Sunday. So now it just kind of gets thrown up in the air, and you have to watch that St. Louis and Minnesota series, see how long that goes. And then when we get the time and date, and we know it's going to be at Ball Arena game 1, we'll get settled in for round number 2. But until then, Kyle and I will be back tomorrow. We'll keep talking about whatever we feel like talking about because we're on cloud 9 right now. Moving into round 2. All right. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciate it. Definitely go check out Locked On NHL for your second listen of the day. Get caught up on everything going on around the league involving the playoffs. Until tomorrow, he is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli, and this is the Locked On Avalanche podcast. We'll see you guys tomorrow.